is helpful. So we're streaming on 3 different platforms right now. We're on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we're on TikTok all at the same time. Hey, Daniel Kim, what's up, brother? All right, so let me delve right into it. You'll have to forgive my my appearance. I'm not here for looks. I'm here for performance. So we have the Eastern District of Virginia. I'm one person. I'm one individual. I'm not an attorney. Thank you for the likes. I appreciate it. I'm one individual. I'm battling on 2 coasts. I'm battling in California, in the county of Napa and Superior Court, in 2 jurisdictions within Superior Court. Both of those, they forced me to self-represent in Napa Superior Court. So I'm pro se in Napa Superior Court when I'm supposed to, by law. Case in point, in remarriage of Knox 2022, California Family Code 2030. I'm entitled to attorney's fees. And I have been from the outset, which I've applied for, and have been improperly denied by the judges in Napa County, to include Victoria Wood, Robert Stamps, and Joseph Soga. Now, I'm also in the California Supreme Court. I have, hold on, let me turn the lights on. I don't know why it keeps going on. In the California Supreme Court, I have writs of certiorari, writs of mandamus, and, all right, brother, I'll see you when you get back, and writs of prohibition in the California Supreme Court. I have writs of mandamus in the California First District Court of Appeals, 4th Division. Also, it's a writ of mandamus and a writ of prohibition. In Washington, D.C., I have a writ of mandamus where I am the plaintiff. The United States Department of Justice is the defendant, or respondent, and is not intended to be adversarial. I had to go to the DOJ to request that they discharge a ministerial duty in this case. Also, self-represented. The DOJ is represented by 5 attorneys. 5 attorneys. In Washington, D.C., I have a civil action preferred against sitting U.S. Congressman Mike Thompson. He has not responded or defended, and he is not represented. I have a action against the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C. They are a federal agency, so more than likely they will be represented by the DOJ. Napa County, I have a habeas corpus in Washington, D.C. against the county of Napa. The DOJ case and the Napa County case have been consolidated together as one. So I'm dropping evidence into that case before the court. Transcripts, you name it. And one of the most important things is the ADA, right? In the county of Napa, they seek to use policies, their local policies, to overpower the law. The ADA is federal law. It's not a joke. It's not a game. It's not a toy for the Napa court admin and the judges to play games with. And that's what they like to do. If you, as the litigant, seek the protections of the Americans with Disability Act and you assert those rights and you have a qualified disability, and you assert your rights under the ADA, and the Court of Napa has to comply. But they don't. They look to circumvent the ADA by using a policy at the lower level. Lower level policy does not overpower federal Americans with Disability Act's mandate. So you have to file an MC 410, which I've done. And what the county of Napa does is they just try to ignore it, violating CRC 1.100. Okay. If you're here now and you don't understand what I'm talking about, just Google ADA Bench Guide California. And it has it's a bench guide that the judges are supposed to use, which gives you case law like Biscaro, V. Stern, and these others. I'm not an attorney. I'm just somebody I'm battling right now on two coasts. Here in the Eastern District of Virginia, I filed a 42 USC 1983 civil RICO against the county of Napa. It is now before the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Napa County in this endeavor is represented by three law firms. Gentry Locke out of Richmond, Don Boyce up in Stafford, Virginia. Both of those are super attorneys. Those are super law firms. And I'm not using that term hyperbolically, like, oh, I'm just calling them a super, like they have a cape and they're attorneys that step into a phone booth and then they fly away. No. These are accolades. This is a real term, super law firms, okay? Who's it? You're helping him. Helping who? You're his brother. Amen. Thank you. God bless you guys. So I appreciate you guys. If I can't see the comments, I apologize. Thank you, human. Queen Omega, welcome. Welcome here. So a super attorney or law firm means that their other attorneys have determined, God, darn it. That these attorneys have achieved a certain amount of wins and they give them that title. So Napa County, using the taxpayer dollar, is represented. Let me see, what is it? Pin that. Amen. Is represented by not one, but three super law firms. And the DOJ is represented by 5 attorneys, exceptional attorneys up in DC. I don't have that. So you have 5 attorneys here. You have 3 law firms here. And you can imagine that the DOJ, if they have 5 attorneys on the case, they're going to have a team that exceeds even the ability of 3 combined law firms that the county of Napa has. They have 2 law firms here in Virginia. Amen. And in California, they have one called Porter Scott out of Sacramento. All 3 of those law firms are paid for by tax dollars. Okay? So the Judicial Council, because 4 of the defendants are judges in Virginia here. 4 of the defendants are judges. So their legal fees are paid for by the Judicial Council. Hey, what's up? How you doing, Jenny Mae? So the other defendants are Napa County employees, to include the district attorney, Allison Haley, her direct reports, her deputy district attorneys, the public defender. They're all represented by Gentry Locke and by Porter Scott. So remember, I'm fighting on 2 coasts against, 5 attorneys here. Let's call it it's 3 law firms here in Virginia. Well, yeah, in this case here in Virginia, it's 3 super law firms. In DC, it's 5 attorneys, but you know that they have more than that. And then in California, the Napa Superior Court, they have all the clerks. They have the district attorney's office has a whole staff, and then there's just me. And I'm battling all of these people at one time, just one person. And I'm not an attorney, man. So the ADA, I filed what's called an MC 410 in the state of California. That's a request for ADA accommodations. But you shouldn't have to make certain ADA accommodations, requests. If I was in a wheelchair, would I need to make a request to a building to get into it to go to court? Huh? Would I? If I asked to go to court and I was in a wheelchair, would they be able to say, well, you can only come into the court when our ramp is open? or when we have a staff to man the ramp. Is that how ADA accommodations work if you're in a wheelchair? No, right? They would be sued just like that. Now imagine if you're disabled and somebody in the building, like say the hospital where you need to go, say you have Kaiser, and say you're married to somebody that works for Kaiser, and they give and that's the only Kaiser you can go to that's not miles and miles away, and you're Kaiser because you and the person are no longer agreeing with one another because you're trying to co-parent, and then they put a civil order that prohibits you from accessing Kaiser, right? Or say that's mental health services or veteran services or your congressman. That would be a violation of your rights under Title II. If you're disabled and you need to access somewhere, what if you were married to a judge and you're in a dissolution of marriage with the judge? Would that mean you cannot enter into a court building? Because you see what I'm saying? The complexity of them abusing these orders that are putting down blockades to allow people access to safe places. And that's part of the reason why they're being sued. Because what they've been doing in the county of Napa, which I've been showing you guys with the transcripts and the audio. The sensor keeps going off. As a means to deny people access to buildings that they're legally entitled access to under the law. That's a violation of Title II. Because the lower burden of proof, which is next to nothing, should not be a means to try to circumvent the ADA or your rights. If you have evidence or if you have business to attend to at a public building, you should not be denied access to that building because the people who have a vested interest for your evidence not to be brought forward because it would reflect negatively on their performance as taxpayer public servants, that they then go down and try to seek a restraining order to conceal their inequities. Case in point, Belia Ramos is a county supervisor for the county of Napa. There was an individual named Deborah Dunham, I think it was either Deborah or Laura, I'm pretty sure it was Deborah Dunham. She's an upper echelon executive for a company in the county of Napa, private company. And she was alleged to have been disseminating information that Belia Ramos did not want people to see. It was public information that was accessed by a terminal in the courthouse. Otherwise, it would not have been accessible. Belia Ramos, a Napa County supervisor, went down to the court, thank you, sister, and filed for a restraining order, and she falsely predicated the reason being that the information was confidential that was being disseminated by Deborah Dunham and was granted a restraining order by the very same people who did this to me. This is what they do in the county of Napa. It's the same judges, the usual suspects. If a county employee creates a liability by their conduct, the county then weaponizes, with the help of the arbiters, the machinery of justice against you, the taxpayer, by using your tax dollars against you. That restraining order. Now, Deborah Dunham is an upper echelon executive. She's not like most of us. She has access to funds for representation. So when they tried to pull that game with her, it didn't work in the long run. But she, again, had to exhaust money for an attorney. But what if you don't have money for an attorney? What if you're self-represented? What if you're just a construction worker, right? And say you own a home. Say you bust your hump to buy a home, and say you move next to somebody who works for the county, and you have some kind of verbal disagreement over a fence line or something, and all of a sudden you start getting harangued and harassed by the county because that's one of them, right? Now, that would be an abuse of the machinery of justice. And this is what we assert transpires in the county of Napa. Y'all have seen the transcripts, so you can see that the attorneys are improperly asserting a doubt under what's called PC 1368 in the state of California. My social worker hated me and lived next door. Amen. Like, could you imagine you go to a counter and you're like, hey, my rights are being abridged. There's somebody that works for the county that's paid six figures, and they sought to violate my rights as a taxpayer, and I stood my ground, and the person is now abusing the duty that they have to further do me harm. And then when you go to make that complaint, they then work together. Imagine if that happens. I'm not saying that happens everywhere, but it does happen. So, when you make a request for, I can't remember what it's called, not accessories. Hey, what's the thing, like when if you have a hearing problem or a cognitive issue, a communication, what is it? Fraud upon the court within its own system. And fraud upon the court, folks, so if you don't know, fraud on the court is only when it's an officer of the court. That term cannot be used if it's you or I. If it's you or me, it's not fraud on the court. If it's a county employee, it's not fraud on the court. It's only fraud on the court if an officer of the court presents perjury to the tribunal or to the court. Say, sister, 8. Let me see. I always call her by her handle on here. Pain for purpose. What's the things when you like for the request, for example, the CART machine, CART, for people who have communication disability issues. So imagine if you make that request through an MC 410 in Napa County, and they deny you that request. And so in California, not the ADA accommodation. There's a specific term for the equipment. So the equipment is what I'm talking about. Well, the CART machine is what it's called, but the request is for, like when you make the request for the hearing equipment and everything, I can't remember exactly what it's called. So auxiliary aid, thank you very much. Thank you, Clan Shadows. So if you make a request for auxiliary aids and they deny you, that's what happened. I filed the MC 410 and I made a request for auxiliary aids. I learned from Jay Shore here that you can also make a request for, I asked for all written because of auditory delay. So Jay Shore said that when you show up on Zoom, there's a feature on Zoom that they can give you a transcript during the proceedings. I made that request. I made a request to record the hearings. In all of those, your request has to be reasonable for your disability. So if you have a bum leg or something, and you make a request for auxiliary aids, it's not going to align. But if you have post-traumatic stress disorder, if you have a hearing problem or other communication issues, that's a reasonable request in California for auxiliary aids and to record the hearings. PTSD being one of them, right? Let me see. Yes, they denied transcript. Well, think about that, folks. So in California, the Supreme Court got tired of people showing up. Litigants are showing up and they're like, I want to appeal this outcome. Where's the record? Well, there is no record. They don't provide transcripts in civil court or family court in California. Some say that they diverted the funds that used to cover paying for a court reporter over to pay for guardian ad litem fees, which some of you guys don't know what that is. That's minors counsel. Some people call it minors counsel. Some call it a guardian ad litem, which means they're supposed to represent the child in these circumstances. You know what I mean? They're supposed to represent the child's best interest, but that's, we could, there's a lot of people that would argue against that. But they say that there used to be transcribers or court reporters inside of family law proceedings, but that changed because they had to shift the money. And it turned into this cesspool of question marks because there seems to be something of a potential abuse anyways. So the Supreme Court said, look, if people in California have a fee waiver on file, you must provide a court reporter to them at no cost, right? But think about that. Say right now you're in the courtroom and they're just destroying your rights. You have to then wait on a transcript from one of their transcribers, from one of their court reporters. You have to wait for them to give you that. And what we found is that takes a long time. And I would say many have questioned whether it's an intentional act to further delay due process. Because remember, they cite younger abstention, right? They say we have immunity. And if you seek to challenge a ruling, even if it's erroneous, you must appeal. But if you have no record, your due process is denied. And due process, justice delayed is justice denied. So if you have a limit, like right now, you get a ruling today. The clock starts ticking, right? Once that order goes in place, once it's signed by the judge and once it's filed, that clock starts ticking for you to do an appeal. So if they don't get you the transcripts before that clock runs out, then your due process is denied. So justice delayed is justice denied. So if you are a litigant and you need auxiliary aids and you need help with communication, real time is the ideal time. But what they try to do is they try to say, no. But that's not how it works in California. In California, under CRC 1.100, they can't deny you unless it's one of three things. And those three things, it must be one of those three things. They can't just throw a dart at a dartboard and say, we're picking number 2 because we feel like it. And we say, Alchemist, Susanna, do they have an internal transcript only for court records that we have no access to? That court does. And some people have been successful at demanding those. But we are dealing with next level obstruction when we seek redress or when we seek due process. Because when you go to ask for it, they will give you a myriad of excuses and delays and justifications. And the ADA is federal. It is federal. It's mandatory. It's not just because they feel like, and that's what they're doing, is they're trying to take local policy, not law, and overpower federal ADA mandatory compliance. And so imagine if you make a request for auxiliary aids and they deny you, and you still continue to assert, and you tell the judge, I'm not moving forward. I'm being denied access to these proceedings. My rights under the Americans with Disability Act are being violated, blah, blah. And you're telling them, and you are asserting your ADA rights by doing the thing that you made the legitimate, proper request for. And then you hear the judges and the court admin, these other people, then try to say like, oh, no, you can't do that. No, you cannot violate the Americans with Disability Act, Mr. Court CEO, Mr. Napa Court Judge. You can't violate the ADA just because you feel some kind of way and you want to. And the reason why they don't want a record is because then you can prove to the Court of Appeal where you seek redress that they violated your rights, that they violated the statutory language of the law. You can support your premise. So the argument has to be made. If they improperly violate your rights under the Americans with Disability Act and you press forward asserting your rights, can they then try to That's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to press back and say, no, 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 you can't do that because we said no. You can't violate the ADA. You can't replace federal codified law mandate with a policy, and that's what they're trying to do. So, in Washington D.C., all the transcripts are being put into the federal record. And what those transcripts consist of is judges in Napa County committing fraud on the court, an attorney, litigants committing fraud on the court. And I assert my Americans with Disability Act as I have in writing, on the record, and through auxiliary aids. And what they are is they're trying to tighten down and retaliate because they're like, oh man, now he can prove that we've been violating the law. And they're just angry and vindictive. But they're represented by so many. In DC, I'm having to battle over 10 attorneys right now. And I'm not trying to battle them. I don't want to be adversarial. I don't get, no, this isn't entertaining for me. I can't stand this. But it's what I have to do. It's what has to be done. I have to file another writ of mandamus because of what they've done. If they're only giving you an alternative option that is no option at all because that option has obstacles, then that's not an alternative. They can't supplement your access to the court with an obstacle. Oh, we're going to give you, because we don't want you to be able to have real-time access to the court. We're going to give you an alternative that allows us to delay your due process. Justice delayed is justice denied. Now, some of y'all heard the video of me going to San Francisco. This is a lot of the videos. She's in the one in the court. We see her with me at the FBI building in San Francisco. Okay. We had to think outside the box at that time, because you pick up the phone and you call places and they run and hide. Yep, they are fighting with me too. They need to give up already. What's up, Rich? Hey, man, it's hard though. Unfortunately, they just kind of clamped down. And a lot of y'all have seen what's happening to Agnes Banda out there in Washington County and Tennessee. And it's brutal because once in their control, they have more ability to deny you due process. Let me see. How did I get the FBI to get them to stop messing with me? They won't even let my ex change child support. Okay, so Rish right here has had to deal with the same attorney that I have, right? We all went to the FBI building in San Francisco that day. And I had to be creative with her. Yeah. And reason being, the FBI does do civil rights investigation. So if your civil rights are violated, they do have a division for that. They have cyber crimes. They just don't deal with one crime. They have counterterrorism. They have a bunch. So people that are navigating, and I kind of called that into question as to whether they would do anything to help us in this circumstance, because when they hear family law, I feel like they pull away because they don't want the FBI or these agencies to be weaponized through litigation, which makes sense. But you guys hear about that, the New Jersey, I think it was in New Jersey. The guy was like an accountant or whatever in Manhattan, and he was a serial unaliver. And out of that case, I was watching this documentary, and the FBI took like 2.5 years, but they were investigating a sheriff, a district attorney, and some other people that were violating people's rights under color of law. And they did go and arrest everybody, to include the district attorney in that town in New Jersey. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I guess they really do, under certain circumstances. But how do you get to that result? FBI is part of the DOJ. Yes. So in the Washington, D.C. case, I am the petitioner. The DOJ is the respondent. Kash Patel is the respondent. And not because he did anything to me, but because he's the director of the FBI. And as you guys have heard and seen, I went to the FBI and I was like, hey, in the county of Napa, these people are off the hook what they're doing to people down there. If you step forward about public corruption or anything that you observe, that you go and you're like, hey, man, this ain't right. They then go like, and then they abuse the machinery against the people. So I did not know at the time when I was going to the FBI, I didn't know that Napa County was already under investigation by the FBI. In place in the whole 9 yards. So that they had the wiretap against is one of the people relative to this matter. So there was to get a wiretap on a county supervisor, that's significant. That's not like, and I'm not saying whatever he was guilty of or not guilty, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that a federal judge signed off on a warrant for a wiretap against that county supervisor, and he was the county supervisor who says that they initiated an investigation on my behalf. But they would then later try to conceal the findings to cover something up. When I said, hey, can you hand those? Oh, it's confidential. Okay, fine. Here's an email address to an FBI agent in San Francisco. Can you forward your confidential findings? That's Jennifer Yasumoto, the Director of Health and Human Services for Napa County. Why don't you forward those? It's not confidential to the FBI. And we've been doing public records requests. The FBI, one of the people that they subpoenaed documents and evidence for, he dispatched himself during that investigation, right? But that guy had an attorney make a public records request for communications between Belia Ramos, that same county supervisor that got a restraining order against a private citizen for disseminating public information, right? That gentleman who dispatched himself made a public records request to an attorney for all communications between that county supervisor and the now presiding judge, that's the chief judge of the bench for Napa County, right? So, hey, what's up, Clowner? How you doing? Daniel Kim, how you doing, brother? So, Jennifer Yasumoto was asked to hand over information. Ryan Clovis, who was the CEO of the Farm Bureau, who unfortunately dispatched himself, was given a subpoena by the Federal Bureau of Investigation for evidence that he supposedly took to a party a few days before and it was stolen. How convenient, right? In a few days, imagine if right now I have evidence, which I do, and then in a few days I'm going to get a subpoena from the FBI, and I conveniently take all my evidence to a party and somebody steals that evidence. What? But so when we found the public records request from the guy that we're speaking of, we started making public records requests. And the county of Napa has been furnishing us internal emails. And I spoke to their attorney. Law firms that represent them. And I told them that, hey, man, these internal emails are exculpatory. Not just in circumstance, but in others. And you know what they did was not the one from Porter Scott, but the county attorney reach out to us and say, hey, we gave you guys information that we're now labeling that exculpatory evidence as they're going to try to block. Too late. They already gave it to us into the federal record. They released it on a public records request. And then when I talked to their attorney and was like, hey, man, have you not seen this? This is them communicating with one another. So they're trying to use client attorney privilege to try to hide their stuff. And when you get the records, the internal emails that shows them communicating with one another, setting a trap for and setting a plan for you. Let me see how to request. So all I had to do, I posted a video and showed you guys. All we did was this guy paid an attorney to do it. And the attorney sent an email that said, I want all the internal communications between this person, that person, this person, between these dates. And that's how it's called a public records request. I was like, holy smokes. And when you see them communicating with one another, talking about you. So you say, I want all communication, text messages, all that stuff, because they're using county devices, taxpayer funded. So when we put the request in, they had to disseminate it. They started to slow drag it. And what they did was they were releasing information that was public that is exculpatory. Then they tried to say, wait, hold on. We want that evidence back. We want you to destroy it. No, player, that's going right into the federal record, because it's in the federal record that we are showing the court that these people are violating folks' rights. Let me see, I have to do a writ of mandamus now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 writs of mandamus active right now. There's going to be a 5th on Monday. Everything I'm telling you guys about the ADA, like what they're doing is they're trying to say, hey, you can't use the ADA unless we tell you you can. And they can't do that. So the evidence that I have through my assertion of my ADA rights, and I have a legitimate qualified disability. I didn't step into court and say, oh, I have a disability and yada, yada. No, I've had one. I've had a diagnosis since 2010. So I'm not just willy-nilly trying to step in there, which I'm not saying everybody does, but let's face it. There's some people out there that are making it harder for people because they're looking to play the game. There's some people that are stepping in there and they're looking to abuse the process. But in some cases, it's kind of hard to blame them because they're up against people that are gaming the system against them. Right? And I'm not here to say anybody's disability is not valid or whatever, but some people are off the jump. And so what happens is everybody gets scrutinized. It's like people who were abusing the service animal thing because they wanted to take Fluffy on a plane or a train or something. And I have a service animal. And for those of you that have had a real service animal, like with a license, and it's done through the ADA, it's done through the DOJ. Because if you have a legitimate service animal and somebody violates your rights, it's the DOJ that investigates, right? Because it's federal. But there's a process, the Humane Society and the whole 9 yards, and they have to give you a service. It's a real service animal. But some of these people were buying these janky things offline, and they buy a vest and all that. And so people thought that if you had the vest on, that was a legitimate service animal. And if you didn't have a vest, they would think that wasn't a legitimate service animal. So people who legitimately had service animals were being scrutinized because they didn't have the vest that people who didn't have legitimate service animals were just buying online, and the little goofy Landsets with the fake documentation, when you have to have a tag from the state that you live in that says service, like legit, it's a registered service animal that provides a service, not an emotional support animal. No, a legitimate service animal. So because people were abusing that, people who legitimately needed to take their animal with them were being abused, man. I mean, we're scrutinized. So when people go out there and they play the game, that's the harm that they do to other people who are legitimately potentially suffering. I hate to say it, but that's what it is. But the court is actually weaponizing policy, trying to circumvent the ADA. And the court has ruled in California, you can only use one of 3 reasons to deny a MC 410, a request for an accommodation. So the argument remains at this point is if the court improperly denied your request, that doesn't mean that your rights stop right there. You know what I mean? If somebody says, hey, I'm not going to allow you access to this, but you have a right to it, that's a moot, that their assertion does not overpower the federal law that says that you have a right. We're going to battle this out in the state of California, but we're also battling it out in Washington, D.C. and in Virginia, the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court in California. So I don't have an attorney though, so I'm just doing this on my own. I have a library. I'm here at the library right now. The wonderful Commonwealth of the state of Virginia provides exceptional libraries. I must say, man, I'm impressed. And I'm going to take you guys to Washington, D.C. to show you the next level. Next level, man. Like, wow. Like, I've never been to a library like I have been to the one in D.C. I've been to two of them, but the one in downtown is mind-blowing. I'll like, hey, what's going on, flip-flops and coke? So that's what the county's trying to do. They're saying we have a policy and they're abusing their policies. They straight out told me, they said, you can't use the ADA, the law, to circumvent our policy. Policy? Did you say policy? Law. With policy. Good morning, sister. Right? So this is the sister right here that I learned about auxiliaries. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's Angelina. So auxiliary aids, when you make those requests, they can't deny them. Happy Saturday. Thank you, Sparkle. They can't deny auxiliary aids. And that's what they did in the county of Napa. I made the request to record the hearings. In writing PTSD diagnosis. They denied me an attorney, needs-based attorney's fees, so that I would have. So I've been fighting all this crap. Thank you for the rose, sister. They denied my ADA on transcript. So that's the question that it begs the question right there. If they deny you and violate the law, does that mean that you cannot move forward? And I say no. You can't tell me, like right now I'm in the library, and if there's a law and somebody walked up and said, hey, well, we have a policy. Say there's a, dang it, hold on. Say there's a policy and you're in a public place, right? And then there's a law, and maybe the law says I can drink this straw. If the law says I can drink off the straw, but somebody walks up and says, hey, we have a policy, you can't drink from a straw. Oh shoot, I forgot to plug in my computer. Sorry about that. Power back up. So we're live streaming right now on 3 different platforms. So if a law says I can drink from a straw, I go into a public building and they say, hey, but you can't drink from straws in here. We have a policy that prohibits drinking from straws. You can only drink from inside the cup. But the law says, the federal law says that I can drink from the straw. Oh, yeah. They didn't just deny it on the record. They denied it in writing. The court CEO. Now, who is the court CEO? The court CEO is Robert Fleshman. Now, he was one of the defendants in the Eastern District of Virginia. And me not being an attorney, I messed up and I forgot to put why and what he did. So those of you who want to, everybody's asking, how do you do a lawsuit and everything? Well, one of the things that we must do in these lawsuits is you have to state a claim. You must state a claim. What does that mean? I'm not an attorney. I'm actually doing this. So I'm just telling you guys what I had to do. Is you must say that this person violated my right. My right is this on this day, and how they violated my right and what harm it did. You must state that claim. That harm then caused me this, right? Maybe you lose your job. Maybe they denied you access to something that you were entitled to on this day that violates your right under X, Y, or Z. And that caused you harm. You didn't get to access it. So as a result, a ruling was imposed against you, blah, 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 whatever. That's stating a claim, and you must. And Robert Fleshman was listed as a defendant, and I didn't put it in the verbiage because there was so many of them. That's the downside to having too many defendants in these actions, is you have to serve all of them, and there's all the complexity of it. So I can go to federal now, even though I'm waiting on an appeal. My appeal is in federal court. So I filed a 42 USC 1983 civil RICO in the Eastern District of Virginia. My argument, I submitted my opening brief to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. I'm not an appellate attorney. I don't think a lot of people who don't know about law, they don't understand that appeals is a specialization within law. So if you have to go into family court or probate court, fight, like say your parents leave you property and somebody's trying to erroneously strip you from your inheritance, you might be in probate court fighting this battle. We're not just dealing with people that are fighting in family court. We have people fighting in multiple different jurisdictions. And so, oh, goodness gracious. Oh. So imagine if you're in the courtroom and you get an unfavorable ruling because your rights are violated. Say you were entitled to something that was not given, like an ADA accommodation. What if you go in there and you can't hear, and you're in the courtroom and like, I can't hear what the other person said, Your Honor. I don't know how to respond because I can't hear them. And they're like, well, we don't have a lot of time for this. Hurry up, we got to go. And it happens. Well, say that person needs to appeal. That's a specialization within law. You go to get an appeals attorney, and it's extremely expensive. So if you have to go file in federal court, it's the same thing. You got to go get an attorney for that. If you get an unfavorable ruling, you then must appeal that ruling, and you're going to need an appeals attorney. So I'm having to battle actively in superior court, which is an inferior court by comparison to the others. And I don't mean that as an attack on the name. It's just, although it's superior, called superior court, it's inferior to the Supreme Court of the state or the Court of Appeals. So should you seek redress from a superior court, you must go to a higher. You have to lose to win to get to the next step, right? But that's going to be more expensive too. So if you don't have that money, you're denied due process. So the things that people are having to do and having to learn, and I've met so many people that are doing it at an exceptional level. And I salute those people, but it's not easy, man. It's wear and tear on your mental. Go pro se and read Black Book Law Study, and don't be in there reading off AI, right? AI has its benefit. Anything that you do, any studying that you do, anything that you get from the AI, you can go double check it. But learning how to use the AI is the benefit, is beneficial. There are some litigants here that are exceptional. They have a level of information and acumen that is impressive. They bet on people not going to higher court, especially without an attorney. Exactly, 1,000%. Like, you got to teach that AI. Yes. And if there's other parents that you speak to, and if one has one AI and you have another and the other, when you do your documents, send it over to them. Be like, hey, can you do me a favor and run this through your platform? And then once that's done, hey, if there's another parent that uses another, it can be expensive. Some of the really good ones are costly. So if one person needed to pay for like 4 different AIs, that's going to be a lot of money. Still, if each parent in your little team of pro se fighters, if you send your document and they run it through there, and it may pick and find stuff, it may have an ability that the other one doesn't. Each one is really good at different things. So learn from that. Share it with the people. You got your team. I recommend it be within the same county and the same state. That's your best bet, because they're going to know the same judges. Daniel Kim, how you doing, brother? And or always use quantum computing to make your documents. Ooh, quantum, I like that. Have you guys ever heard of sentient? Yeah, we use several. Claude, sentient. I heard that the attorneys use one that's extremely expensive. Well, which one of us can pay and or to always use? Oh yeah, let me see, George Williams. Okay, so I don't know if you guys understand that the full consequence of what's happening here is the position that they've placed me in can cost me life itself. That's the circumstance that they've placed me in because of their lack of willingness to respect the laws as they are within the court and or always. So every time I go into the courtroom, I've asserted not only the ADA but other federal laws. And so right now, we're going to battle it out in DC. I've been given a case number now for this one, and everywhere I went, I had cameras. I filmed everything. I think you guys are starting to see that now. I have volumes of evidence to support my premise that I went here, I went there, I went to the FBI in writing before I went to court. I asked AI for procedural, constitutional, jurisdictional contradictions and to lock box judge in. What? To lock and box judge in. Chat GBT, say friend, please use quantum thinking when doing your documents review. Okay. See, folks, we can learn from one another. But the hard part is most of the people, their bandwidth is tanked out. It's like stretched very thin. And so be careful what you impose on people because many of the people are stretched to the max. There's people like Wade Reeves and so many others out there that many of the parents have their own afflictions. I've seen people who have learning disabilities, ADHD and different things, and they're still given this battle. Man, they're in there giving it, They're in there fighting tooth and nail and making a really good fight. So the fact that they already battle an affliction and they're still going in there and giving these people the business, that's a next level of, let me see, lock the record box, Judge. Even if it's tough, you have to oxygen mask on first. Yep. Self rescue first. If the plane's going, you gotta. What does it say? Put your mask on first. You're useless unless you put your mask on. Amen. So I had a plan for what I was going to do. I messed up yesterday and I forgot. I left my most important thumb drives out in the woods where I stay. And I got to the library and I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot my damn thumb drive. So I have some other ones. I have documents to do. It's Saturday. As you can see, Monday through Sunday, I don't mess around. This is what it takes. And it still might not be enough because we're battling exceptional power. So the DOJ is represented by 5 attorneys right now. DHS will more than likely be represented by the DOJ. Mike Thompson has not responded or defended. Mike Thompson is out there trying to press a bill. He's saying we have to protect whistleblowers, IRS whistleblowers. I went to him as a whistleblower and said, hey, man, my son is being taken down into danger. And he, for whatever reason, did what he did. Thank God you didn't lose them. Oh, man. Well, I back up everything. You need to back up your backups, your backups. And reason being, what if these things are sensitive? What if it breaks off and now your information's trapped in there? So transfer that. This isn't the one that I left. I do have some, but it's not the ones that I used yesterday. Yesterday, I put some documentation together. I'm 100% challenging the Superior Court and their denial of ADA accommodations. They said you can't do this. They violated the law by doing so. And they're trying to assert a policy. Now it's time to go to battle to say no. They don't want those records, and they're angry because those records reflect them lying on the court, straight up. All of the manual is going into the federal record. And so they're clamping down hard. And you guys can see what the results of standing your ground is. Look what happened to Agnes. Read the transcripts that we're putting forward, man. You can see. Read the one I just posted with Sang Nguyen. The individual, the defendant, said, I'm going to get private counsel. And the attorney that's what they do, is they want to make sure, okay, this person doesn't have money. Bam, we'll stick them with a public defender. And then the public defender is at our beck and call. Then when Wendell Coleman tried to get a private attorney, immediately the attorney says, pursuant to PC 1368, I want to declare a doubt. And they locked him into an institution when he sought to get a private attorney, man. I'm here still listening and click. Yes, man. Thank you. So we have that in writing. And that attorney, we have evidence that attorney on more than one occasion has asked for litigants to pretend that they were insane, saying that he can get them off. But that was a ruse. That an attorney should never advise their clients to pretend that they're insane to play games with the machinery of justice. But he had no intentions of getting them off. What he was trying to do is, if you go into the doctor and you're like, I'm not insane, here's my evidence, I'm perfectly coherent, blah, 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 blah. Well, the PC 1368 does not work. So that attorney tries to get people to play along, and then that doctor will be like, oh yeah, this person's nuttier than squirrel turds. And now they have full control of the person, and there's no backing out of that. It's too late. So you see the damage that attorney can do by advising a Napa County public defender, taxpayer funded, is encouraging litigants to pretend that they're insane under the false premise that he can get them off for what they stand accused of. Number one, that's an ethical violation. That's playing games with the machinery, but he had no intentions of getting them off. What he did was he was trying to trick them into screwing themselves over. Because as soon as that declaration of doubt is validated by that doctor, they then have 100% control of that litigant. And the reason that's why he went to sidebar, which is illegal. He has to declare, he has to submit evidence, and that evidence has to be spoken into the record. But we got Sang Nguyen down there. We got Kendall Barron. We got Mark Bosnecker. See, the guardrails only work if the people do what they're supposed to. And we have judges in the county of Napa. We have a rogue district attorney and her direct reports like Lauren Noga that are lying on the record. And they're doing it to remove the guardrails. The guardrails only work if people allow them to work. The people who are supposed to protect the machinery, if they don't do what they're supposed to. So as soon as Sang Nguyen said, hey, Your Honor, pursuant to PC 1368, I want to declare a doubt. Sang Nguyen, the judge is supposed to go, I don't see any sufficient significant evidence filed into the record so that I may speak it into the record as mandated by PC 1368, counselor. Where is your evidence? No. The judges, Mark Bosnecker ain't doing that. He's like, you don't even got to go to sidebar. With Kendall Barron, he's like, no, you don't even got to do that. Boom. And you see that he did it with Wendell Coleman too. But they did have a sidebar before that. That's when the plot goes together. So Mark Bosnecker is 100% complicit with Sang Nguyen, as is Kendall Barron with Mark Bosnecker. Same judge. Two different public defenders from the same office. Sang Nguyen is the attorney who we have evidence that he encouraged his own clients that he's supposed to be protecting and representing to pretend to be insane. And then he goes and declares a doubt when they tried to pull away from him. Like, hey, I want to go get a private attorney. This guy ain't representing me. And he goes, pursuant to PC 1368, I want to do a doubt. Hey, thank you, sister. Appreciate it. God bless you guys. You guys get what that means? Imagine being in a courtroom and the attorney next to you says, I want to declare a doubt of my client that they're insane. And so there's only two ways they can do the doubt. One is a significant breakdown in communication. Oh, shoot the rocket. Whoa. Thank you, sister. Is a significant breakdown in communication between the attorney and the client. But if you have a Marsden hearing and they say they deny your Marsden motion and they say there's no significant breakdown, they can't use that. So there's only one thing left, and they're saying that you're insane and that you can't understand the proceedings. Does it seem like I don't understand the proceedings? So they're violating people's rights, and they're locking people into institutions, and they're force medicating them. That's what they're doing in the county of Napa. They have their own state hospital in the county of Napa for them to be able to get away with this. And this is done by Allison Haley, the Napa County District Attorney, who, oh man, she just loves photo ops and look at me and what I'm doing. So they're furious right now that we're like pulling back the cover and showing who's back there working. We got the Wizard of Oz back here messing with the levers of the machinery and doing all this. But I didn't go after her. They came after me. I was in Washington, D.C., all the way over here. And Allison Haley decided, you know what? I'm going to shut this guy up. Guys, repost, heart, use the thumbs. Thank you, please. Thank you. Oh, thank you for the heart, sister. God bless you, flip-flops and cock. That's caulk, folks, not cock. Caulk. C-A-U-L-K, flip-flops and caulk, because she's very handy with her hands. You see, she does a lot of awesome craft work. I love what you did with that table, where you cut it into the arm, you cut the divots into it. And I love that style. I'm from Napa, so if you go to Napa, a lot of the decor at the wineries, it's all earthy, like awesome, massive tables, massive, made out of wood with the carving, and you walk into a bathroom and there's like dogwood and man, like tree branches and these big old vases, and it smells like lemongrass. It's the aesthetics of Napa is very pleasing. I had a hostel and grow. Oh, you're from California? Thank you, brother. Oh yeah, shout out to Marine Brothers. So I hope you guys understand the complexity of this narrative. I was a peacekeeper for Kosovo, and I'll start telling you guys more about that. We deployed, the United States deployed with NATO, Canada, Belgium, France, the United Arab Emirates, Russia joined at the end of the operation, Germany, Deutschland, Getzlos, Deutschland. We were sent to protect people. And in the county of Napa, that what they try to do is, in order to try to hide what they've done, they tried to frame me as a dangerous combat veteran. And there was somebody who lost their stuff in the county of Napa, and he went left. He was a combat veteran who went to Afghanistan, and it destroyed the young man. And unfortunately, 5 people are no longer here. It started with that, and it led to the loss of life of 5 people in the county of Napa. That's not me. That ain't me. But what they did is they had to hide all the things that they were doing. So they're like, oh, yeah, no, we need restraining orders so that he can't talk about the things that we're doing. And we're afraid of him because he's a veteran. I was a peacekeeper, man. I was sent to say, I'm so proud. I'm so honored and proud that I got to be the one that stood there and said, you're not going to hurt these people. Nah, no. And you're not going to hurt them either. Don't do it, okay? And we weren't playing no games. We're combat arms, so we were working outside of our job description, if you get what I mean. That's not our job description. We're infantrymen. We're 11 Bravos. But we were sent to do the exact opposite. Don't get me wrong. If somebody was going to whack somebody, they got to go. And we wouldn't allow that to happen. But as a peacekeeper, it's hard. You're protecting a whole country, all these different towns. You're out in sector. And so we couldn't be everywhere at all times. So there were people who got unalived while we were there, and it's hard because you're protecting these people. and then somebody got to the people that you're protecting and took their lives. And I mean, like, you know what I mean? I'm not just talking about adults. I'm talking about elderly people. I'm talking about these, talking about us, people, I mean, adults. In those circumstances, there's no real rules for them. Thank you for the roses. Thank you, sister. Love you too. So, man, in revolution, and people say revolution and all that, man, some horrible stuff gets done by people that talk like that, man. And I mean the worst of the worst of the worst things that you guys could fathom. Um, so if somebody was going to go clip somebody and we're there, they got to go. But we're there to protect both sides, and we achieve that. So for people in the county of Napa to try to put me in a different box when my brothers passed away, because they did go to combat operations after we would go to Kosovo. They would go back for a second round in Kosovo. Some of them, like I said, were in Bosnia first. And Bosnia, I'm sure most people know what Bosnia was. And then you got Kosovo. Thank you for the rose, sister. So to go to these people, to have gone to another country and protected other people's children, and I'm honored to have done that. But to go to the people in the county of Napa and say, like, hey, I need your guys' help, please. Thank you, wait, please. Thank you for the gloves. Appreciate it. Somebody give me, I'm on 2 platforms, well, 3 platforms at once, folks. So we got TikTok to your left, we have YouTube, and we have Facebook to the right here. So if it seems confusing because I'm looking both ways, I apologize. But to go to people who have a duty to help, and then they try to weaponize NATO peacekeeping. And one of the persons who did it is a combat veteran. That's defendant right here, Mike Thompson. And now he's up in DC riding around on bicycles and, hi, I want to pass my bill to protect whistleblowers. Will you guys support me? And I'm trying to pass my bill to protect whistleblowers. Wait a second. I'm a whistleblower. And I went to him, and instead he weaponized the machinery with these people against me. I show up in DC. I'm at the Cannon building at his office, and the Capitol Police come into the office. Imagine I'm right here right now talking to you guys. Hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And the police come in and they say, hey, they said that you threatened them. Like, what? I'm live. What are you talking about? I didn't threaten nobody. I can show you right now. Oops. Thank you. Oh my God. Yes. Watch the video. It's here. I put it up on the platform. The video from what happened in DC in Mike Thompson's office in the Cannon building, it's here. And they lied. But that's not the whole thing. They lied and said that I threatened them in California. I hadn't been in California since 2024 when all these people failed me and I had to go all the way to DC. You see, it's so easy nowadays. And they do it to cover up stuff. That's the double betrayal, man. Like, look, if you do something wrong, be like, hey, come on, get in here. Hey, how do we make a smile? How do we turn a frown upside down? You know, let's get this settled, man. I mean, but instead, they're like, oh no, that person threatened me, and they lie. But they lied against the wrong person, and now they're trying to come up with ways to try to keep this out of the record. They want to be like, oh man, no, we didn't give him permission. No, the ADA gave me permission, and they improperly denied me ADA, so they screwed up. You can't, like right now, like if I'm in a wheelchair and I'm coming up in the building, you're like, oh, you can't come in here, and I have a right to be here. I just keep on, you can keep on going because they cannot override federal law, right? The ADA. So if you keep on going, when you have the legal right to be there, they can't then say, oh man, we told him he couldn't come up in here. Oh no, he can't. No, you can't come. No. But if you stop and you don't continue to assert your right, then it's like, then they won. So I continued moving forward, and rightly so. State-created danger doctrine is a real thing. So if you enter into a courtroom and say there's a factor but they exacerbate that factor exponentially by their incompetence, by their denial of your rights. Say they deny your rights, and now the danger went from here to way the heck up here. That's state created danger doctrine, and that's 1983, 42 USC 1983. Thanks for all I do. Appreciate you. Thanks for all you do too, sister. All of y'all. I can't lie. This is hard, folks. Don't get me wrong. Don't think that I'm like it beats me down every single day. And I do my best to be strong. But when you guys tell me that I inspire you guys, it's like it gives pours a little bit more in the gas tank. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you guys. So an attorney would take a ramp ADA suit. Yeah, think about that. People, they had to put rules in place in California. They had to put rules in place because people were going, well, thank you for the boxy love. Thanks. Oh, they had to put rules in place because unfortunately there was people out there abusing the ADA protections. They were going and just filing lawsuits. They were showing up to buildings and they were like, I don't see this or that, and that's not in compliance with the law. Then they would go sue the establishment, and then the establishment would be like, this person isn't even handicapped. But if I was, you would be in violation of my rights. So because people were out there trying to play the game, people who were genuinely suffering, they put rules in place, which makes it hard for you who may have a legitimate grievance, a legitimate disability that's being denied, and your rights abridged. And now you have to go through more obstacles because people are out there playing the game. That's why I don't like the people that come on here and they lie, or they're out there and they want to be famous and make money. What they're doing is they're making it harder for people who are legitimately like stuck, like fighting. So I ain't gonna tell nobody what to do. You get it how you live. But so those people were suing places and they didn't even have a disability. So the fact that they were able to, but the court is denying people ADA accommodations, and they're violating people's rights. So we have writs of mandamus at the California Court of Appeals. Amen. Yes. Stop being rude to the judges. It's hard. You guys can hear me. I try to be nice. Your Honor, yes, sir. You know, honestly, I don't like going in there when the judges have destroyed you and they've used your child as a weapon. I don't like going in there and saying good morning. You know what I mean? It's psychologically brutal when they intentionally violate your rights, and then you go into court and they're like, hey, good morning. Like, talking to me? You know, I've had to tell the judge, like, Your Honor, because I was looking at him when he was telling me good morning. And he's like, you're not going to, Your Honor, I told him it's psychologically, what did I say? Psychologically not imposing, brutal, that you've hurt me, you've hurt my child, and you want me to exchange pleasantries with you. Can we just get to the business? It's not necessary to be like, oh, hey, good morning, Your Honor. Oh, yes, the clerk. Are we great yet? We always can be. Greatness is how you feel about yourself. You got to love the special ones that come in and you want to make everything about politics. You know, I always see people that jump into people's lives, and when I mean live, I mean live streaming, and they want to emphasize how they feel about something. Like, what? You don't support peace and you're for the war? And I'm like, have you ever fought for peace, or have you ever gone and preserved peace? I'm aware. Aware? Does that mean you're like an werewolf? When the moon turns, you guys turn into something different? I'm aware. Well, last time I checked, awareness doesn't stop people from clipping other people. It takes somebody to go and stop them. Somebody has to put themselves in harm's way, unfortunately, at times to stop somebody from, I am aware. Yes, they're like, so I always giggle when people come on and they want to bring politics into it. I try to stay away from that stuff. Um, but it's a free country. It is a public forum, so potato. I can't say potato. I can't wait to get them on the record. I'm never there to win. I fight on the right battlefield. Hey man, it's so hard though, man. You go in there and you're just like you guys are that angry at me because I'm standing up for my rights that you guys would further or hurt my kid, man. That's what's bizarre. So again, DC, Washington DC, the DOJ is represented by 5 attorneys. Um, Mike Thompson's not represented. The DOJ and the Napa County case in Washington, D.C. have been consolidated. And I'm packing all the evidence into the D.C. case right now. Transcripts, the whole 9 yards. So that the federal court judge can see, holy moly, these people have been going way off the rails. And I'm not asking a federal judge in D.C. to undo a lower court ruling. I'm trying to show the federal court judges that these people have been going bananas and violating federal law, mandates, must and shalls. You see, politics aren't for we the people, but Constitution is. Amen, sister. God bless you guys. All right, I got to get to work because it's a Saturday, so the library has limited hours. I got a lot of work to do. I just want to show you guys. I'm battling on both coasts, unfortunately. I'm in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals as an appellate, a federal appellate. I'm in Washington, D.C. These are the defendants. The DOJ, I'm not trying to besmirch them at all, but just like when you rent a car, I always trip that there's a lot of people mad at people who drive the car now, but they're angry at the person behind the wheel for something that was done when somebody else was driving. When you go to rent a car, you do a walk around and they look for scratches and dings so that they know that you didn't do those scratches and stuff. Thank you, sister, for the hearts. So I don't understand why. Love you too, sister. God bless you. I don't understand why people get mad at somebody who wasn't even behind the wheel. But they don't get mad at the people who were driving the vehicle. They'll be like, no, I have to be mad at the person driving now. Well, the person who was driving before is the one who put the dent on the side over here. The back window's broken. There's milk spilt in the back seat. Makes no sense. So I've learned my lesson to not do that. But I did go and ask for help to the last people. So now there's new people behind the wheel. And I'm like, hey, the last folks didn't do such a good job. Do you guys mind taking a look at this? But I realized we can hoot and holler all we want, and they just keep on trucking. And America, we have a very short-term memory in many cases, Thank you, sister. Yes, ma'am. MADD. Is that Mothers Against DD? How you doing, Phoenix? Phoenix 444. Yes. A lot of the circumstance that I'm dealing with is DD. Could you imagine if one of the judges in your case has a DUI? If your spouse has a DUI, her attorney has a DUI, officers that you spoke to have DUIs. Could you imagine if that's the case? Everybody has DUIs, and you're like, hey, man, I'm trying to protect my kid from DUIs because somebody was drinking and driving with my son. And there's 2 little kids that are no longer here because of somebody who made that choice. My friend is no longer here because he made that choice. This person's not here because they made the choice. And I go to all these people and they're like, they all have DUIs. Imagine if you're talking to an officer that crashed into a parked vehicle and then fled the scene and hid in a tree. because they were inebriated. And then you go into a courtroom and you're telling the judge, like, hey, Your Honor, I got to protect my kid from drunk DUI. Can you put sober link in place? And one of the other judges, they have a DUI. And the attorney next to you is saying, no, it's too much. This is too much for sober link. And you find out that that attorney had a DUI. And his client has 2 DUIs. See what I'm saying? So you got all these people with DUI that are defending the behavior because they all have their own DUIs. And when I say 2 5-year-olds, two young girls are no longer here. At 5 years old, they were dispatched because somebody else made life choices that cut their life short, right? And so imagine these are your friends, these are people you care about. This is a life experience that you could learn from. And then somebody else is trying to do that with your child. And then the people who have a duty to protect, they're making up excuses because that's their friend or because they also have DUIs. Could you imagine? I'm not joking, man. One of the judges has a DUI in my case. Yeah. Like those thumbs up. Thank you. One of the judges has a DUI. She was publicly admonished by the Commission for Judicial Performance for being dishonest in another case. She had to retire, yet she's still presiding in cases. Isn't that bizarre? But she has a DUI. And I'm sitting there explaining that, like, hey, man, my son was being placed in harm's way. And so all they care about is preserving the facade of perfection. Like, no, we are out here. We're out. Oh, hey, man, what about my kid? Yeah, conspiracy. And then I got the good old attorney over here in D.C. that says, this is nothing but a conspiracy. Well, that's going to be a real hard one to hammer home because the people involved in the circumstance over here were under FBI investigation. Wiretap, federal wiretap. The FBI came I don't know if they kicked in the door, but the FBI came to the dude's house. And this is one of the people who is directly relative to my case. So I don't think it's a conspiracy. I mean, it is a conspiracy, but it's a legitimate conspiracy. It's not a woozy-wazy. It's not a manufacturing. It's not. But the attorney in D.C., he tried to play that route. Like, well, let me show the court then. Let me show all the newspaper articles. Let me show that warrant that was signed by a federal judge that you guys used to wiretap the guy's phone that I'm saying. And at the same time that he was doing me dirt on this side over here, that you guys had his phone wiretapped. So what am I missing? A grand jury, a federal grand jury? And then one of the people called to the grand jury took his own life? What am I missing? I don't think I'm too far off here. It's a we protect each other conspiracy. Well, with them, they don't really have I would say almost they're adversarial. So I don't think it's so much of them protecting them. It's them protecting themselves in a sense, because it's like they could have done something. You know, maybe they are doing something too. I can't say that they're not. I don't know, because we didn't know that the FBI was investigating the guy that I'm talking about until it came public. So we didn't know. The FBI is not going to tell you. So they very well could be doing their thing right now. But we're small potatoes in certain circumstances. I mean, you see that with the Nick Shirley thing, they're over there arresting people and doing all that. But it's got its own purpose. You know what I mean? It's like what people want to see. The taxpayers are tired of getting nothing, and people are getting away with it. So that's something that needs to be done and needs to be seen. But sometimes we step out there and we ask for people to help us, and we're just small potatoes, man. You know what I mean? It's not national news that we could do a big old press conference and be like, hey, we were arrested 150 people and they were stealing X, Y, and Z. If we're small potatoes, unfortunately, the likelihood of inaction is high. And so I would think that dude trying to dismiss that is just like, hey, we got bigger fish to fry. We're dealing with all this. We're dealing with all that. And I beg to differ, man, because it's like, hey, if you're out there telling people, hey, say something, do something, we shall stand with you. We are not going to allow this to happen. People abuse the machinery of justice against us and not on my watch. Just like we said in Kosovo, not on my watch. You're not going to go clip people while I'm standing here. Not on my watch. So if they're out there telling people in press conferences that they're going to put people of America, that's not going to happen, and people go to them, that's a reasonable expectation. And so that's how I'm framing it. Like, hey, you guys are the ones who said, come this way, do this thing, see something, say something, do something. And then when people, just like Agnes, people are saying something, they're doing something, and then when they get retaliated against, where is the protection from the machinery of justice? Not on my watch. Mandated reporter. Amen, right? Oh, man. If there's something they can use to make themselves look good as far as like the county and all this other stuff, man, it's going to be, it's got to be everywhere. But if it's something they don't want people to see, and I'm not talking about the DOJ, I'm talking about the county level, because very few of us are dealing with the DOJ. Most people are unfortunately battling down at the county level. When they don't want people to see stuff, when people are like, hey, whoop-de-wop, they're like, get this person out of here. Get a restraining order on that person. We want to put a gag order on that person, right? So, man, we're kind of left to our own devices. So I'm going to tap out for right now. I got a lot of work I have to do. Whistle blow. Like I said, Mike Thompson defended. Mike Thompson, sitting U.S. Congressman, Mike Thompson. He's in Washington, D.C. right now, riding around on bicycles, saying, hey, I'm trying to pass a whistleblower protection bill. Hey, bub, what about the whistleblower relative to cartel violence and unalivings and all kinds of stuff, man? Where was your whistleblower protection then? And instead, to conceal whatever they're trying to conceal, they lie and say that I threaten them and try to frame me as something else. But yet they'll try to like take pictures with veterans, like, look, we love our veterans. Yeah. Unless they got something to say that we don't want people to know, right? Right? Then all of a sudden the veteran becomes a danger. Well, you're not going to make me out to be a danger to my community or to the people. So the people in Napa, California, Allison Haley, CWS, the court admin, all that stuff, everything's coming out. They've placed me in a paradox where there's nothing else to do but to just fight to the end, you know? And they're making sure that's going to happen. That's their maneuver, is they want to take advantage of the fact that I volunteered to operate for other people whose family members were harmed and hurt. And so I said, hey, I'll go and do this. It's a long time. What thing? Hey, what's up? What's up, Denisha? How you doing, sister? Sorry about that. So there's no level that seems that they will go. There's no level that they won't go to try to silence this. Thank you, sister. And yeah, it's bizarre, man. But I'm not going to let them besmirch me before my son in the Valley of Napa. Everything they're doing is going into the federal record. And their violations of the ADA to try to conceal their conduct, we're going to battle that one out too. So you guys have a good day. I got to get back to work. Whew. Love you guys. Thank you, sister. Everybody, appreciate y'all. Oh, love you too.